have a legally required public hearing to take care of on the Smart Schools Investment Plan. Our Administrator for Technology, Joseph McGrath, will provide us a brief presentation on the district's investment plan, and it'll be followed by any comments from the public. Mr. McGrath?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Today is the culmination of about 2 years' worth of work. This is regarding what we're going to do with getting our schools ready for 21st century learning from an environment point of view. So it's an exciting time, and basically what I'm going to walk through today is a really important question: is where is the funding and what is the plan to get us where we want to get to from an environmental point of view, for our network and our technology is going to be ready for our students. Push it up, Martin. Next one. Thank you. So I just want to talk a little bit about the current state of the district's technology. There's been a lot of work that's happened. Hit it, Martin. There's been a lot of work that's happened. We've made a lot of improvements in our data over the last couple of years, so our data is actually very viable, and it is the best that it has ever been. So there's been a tremendous amount of work in getting our data ready to use to help improve instruction. We've made huge improvements in our technical supportability and what we're able to deliver. And our multi-year instructional plan is moving along on schedule. So one of the things that we want to be sure to do is not just deliver a network, but to actually deliver our plan. So our teachers and our students are moving towards that blended learning model. So we're not doing anything in isolation. This is all a big part of a cohesive 2020 vision that the superintendent has outlined. And so these are some of the steps that we're taking to meet that 2020 vision. All right, next please. All right. Schools now have things like Digital Learning Day they celebrate, an hour of code. We had one of our schools celebrate a day of coding and using a STEAM day. So we're moving our culture along, we're moving our instructional programs along, we're moving our data along, we're moving our tech support model along. Okay, just a couple of things, some of the results of our data work. Our graduation rates have increased. Part of that is the data work. And not to take anything away from the hard work of the teachers and the hard work of the schools, but doing the good work and getting the state to recognize that good work are sometimes two different things. So that's one of the things that we've been very fastidious on and things that we really pushed, and it's made a big difference. Our tech support model is now being used by other districts as the model, where we're actually using data to drive tech support needs. This year, last year, the average response time was 8 days. This year, 70% of our work orders were resolved the same day. So we are getting the teachers the support they need in a timely manner. That's huge. It's huge, because if it doesn't work, no matter what kind of programs we put in, they're not going to use it. Okay? These are some of the instructional programs. This is that blended learning model I was talking about. Huge. And we're moving along. We have more programs, but also deeper programs. Our plan in 2 years' time is to really move where students are using technology as a regular part of instruction. Now you say, why 2 years' time? We have to get the teachers ready, we have to get the programs ready. So these programs have been rolled out for the last couple of years. We have an exciting program next year we're going to do at the high school, where some high school students will get to take home devices, where we're actually going to have a learning management system. So the whole idea is we're moving towards that blended learning model, and it's getting better every year. So this is a concrete, this is growing every year, and it's getting there. But one of the big problems that we have is our infrastructure. Right? So if you look at this, over 90% of our equipment, of our network equipment, is end of life or end of support. That means it needs to go, it needs to be replaced. Our wireless system's over 10 years old. That's an eternity in technology. Right? And 20% of our wireless access points have failed or are failing. Plus, now we have all these new construction projects that are going to require us to improve our technology infrastructure just to keep up. So when we look at some of our technology survey results, and we do the survey every year, we see that 75% of the teachers can get devices when they need them. That's a plus. Right? I wish we had more teachers wanting them, but we're going to get there. The big piece here is 22%, only 22% say the internet is sufficient for their needs. So that means that 80% of our teachers are saying we're not where we need to be, and we know that. And that is why we're going to invest the Smart School funds into our infrastructure to get our environment ready for our students. Next, please. Okay. So a little bit about the Smart Schools Act. It is about $7.9 million for technology in Mount Vernon. It's a lot of money. It is not without some strings. They want us to share the money possibly among different schools, non-publics. We're going to try not to do that. Sometimes this application can go on for 2 to 3 years. We're going to try not to do that. So based on the way that we're filing, it's going to be a streamlined application, so it should be no more than 8 months. And we should, unless they change the rules, not have to share the money with any of our non-publics. So that's a big thing. That was part of our concrete plan in terms of how we applied. Next slide, please. All right, so a couple of regulations. The board approved the initial plan about a month ago. District reached out to the 4 non-publics and said, this is what we're doing. So we did put this plan up on the website. It's been on the website for last month. We advertised this form in the paper so people knew about it. And now once the board approves this finalized plan, we now submit it to the state, and now we don't know what's going to happen. So it could be 6 months, it could be 8 months, which once it's in the hands of the state, it is. But we've done a streamlined application, which means as soon as they say yes, we can start doing this purchase and we can start improving our network at basically no impact to our budget, and that's an important one. Okay. So our big question was, what do we need in our network? What is it that we're trying to go to? We had a couple of things. One, we need to have this new wireless. We talk about what wireless infrastructure has gone, and in schools, the number of wireless devices has quadrupled in the last 4 years in the country. Quadrupled. So we know this is happening. We know mobile learning is happening. This is not a Mount Vernon thing. This is a national thing. We need to be ready for that. All right? We have all these new locations related to all the new construction, and we have security concerns. There's a lot that we can do with technology, with security. So we hired a security consultant to come in, work with us, put together a plan so that we would actually be able to support what's coming forward. When we were all said and done, we have a final network solution that is scalable and modular, which means that these pieces fit together almost like Legos. So we only buy what we need, and as the construction progresses, we buy additional things, and if the technology changes, we're not stuck to that old piece, we buy the new one. So when the construction gets to the far where they need the technology, we just go ahead and purchase it. Again, once this plan approved with no impact on the budget. Okay? So some of the consultants that we work with, I just put them up on the screen, including Microsoft, including Core BTS, Sentinel Security. We didn't do this in isolation. We put together a really concrete plan. We know we're only going to get a chance to do this once. The beauty of our plan is if we don't need all the technology today, eventually we know the technology, whatever we buy today, we're going to have to replace. So even if we don't spend all the money today and we don't need it for 5 or 6 years, there's a pot there. So this is going to be a sustainable approach for us. And basically this is what it looks like, about 60-40 between wireless and network infrastructure, a little bit for sort of power and wire management. That's kind of what the plan looks like. It gets very technical, but that's essentially what it is. Pretty straightforward, sustainable plan. We're going to move our district to the 21st century. Thank you. Okay, at this point I'm going to conclude the presentation if there's no questions. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Nope. The board will receive any comments on the Smart Bond Investment Plan? Seeing none, that closes the public hearing. Now it's the board meeting.
Very good. Well, welcome everyone to the June 20th regular board meeting, and if everyone would please rise for the pledge. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do a roll call.
Trustee McOwen?
Present.
Trustee White?
Present.
Trustee Fearon?
She's here. She's
Trustee McDowell?
Present.
Trustee Miller?
Here.
Trustee Nying? Trustee Jaros?
Here.
Trustee Saunders?
Here.
Trustee Zamore?
present.
Quorum is present, sir.
All right, we're going to start off the meeting with a report from the superintendent.
Okay, good evening all. I'd like to begin my report with 2 special presentations this evening. One is there are 2 Nightlight Awards we are presenting. One will be presented by Dr. Gail White Wallace for the Barnes & Noble initiative that supported the Superintendent's Reading Challenge. Okay, we'll go on to the next one and ask Mr. Gonzalez if he would come forward. Bubs is coming?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Gail White Wallace will be doing the presentation, the Night Light Award to Barnes & Noble. You're up.
Good evening, everyone. It is always a pleasure to come before the board and our community and to recognize people who have gone above and beyond the call of duty for our students in our city. Today, I would like to honor not just one person, but Barnes & Nobles of Eastchester and Scarsdale for their undying love for our children, for the hours they have put in to make the Superintendent's Reading Challenge a success, for donating their space for no charge, for facilitating technology classes for over 152 of our students, for helping us provide 220 students with Nook devices, for helping us host our first ever Superintendent's Reading Challenge fundraiser, and for supporting our summer reading initiative. For all of your help, for all of your support, for all of your devotion and the love of books, I'd like to present this to Barnes & Nobles, Eastchester Scarsdale. We have their community outreach person here, Miss Amy. Could you please come and accept this award? Thank you. Thank you so much. Of course, Superintendent's Reading Challenge is all about the students. It is my pleasure to announce that this academic year, the students in Mount Vernon from grades pre-K to 8 have read over 157,000 books this academic year. That total is up until June 10th. We are still counting, as with the help of our board members, our superintendent, and the community, we were able to give every single student in our district, all 8,552, 2 books to read over the summer. So the number will continue to climb and to count. One of the major pieces of our Superintendent's Reading Challenge is to prevent the summer slide. And how do we do that? With summer reading. Today, I would like to honor those of our students who took their time to create summer reading posters for each of their school buildings. Each school building, middle school and elementary school, held a summer reading poster contest to get students excited about reading. These posters will be featured on the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook account, and main website for Scholastic Books Incorporated during the month of July. At this time, I would like all of the students who are here today with their winning posters to please stand at the front of the auditorium with your poster. We had a total of 32 students who accomplished first, second, and third place in their school. Each of these students will receive a certificate created through the superintendent's office. And in addition, I want to thank Barnes & Nobles for gift cards for each one of these students that we will present to them today. Dania Murphy, Jayla Rice, Rachel Padilla, Brianna Cole, Joshua Jones, Princess Owusu, Milan Monroe, Tania White, Lena Isa, Catherine Padilla, Kaylee Staunton, Sydney Whitaker, Jade McNeil, Maya Estevez, Richard Stockton, Matthew Samuels,
His certificate. Give him my certificate, please. He worked hard for it.
Paolo Torres, Hayden Melvin, Max Estevez, Jada Grant, Tamia Williams, Pedro Nieves, Tyler Santiago, Juletta Vaines, Ariel Mussington, Kenny Walker, Anaya Simmons, Derek Tobias, Melissa Suchite, did I say it right? Haven Fling, I want to announce my little Brianna Cole right here. That concludes our summer reading poster challenge presentation. I'd like to thank the community, the board, our illustrious superintendent, and his advisory committee for supporting this initiative 150%. We are setting the goal for 200,000 books next year and climbing. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Dr. White Wallace, for being such a champion for the Superintendent's Reading Challenge. We actually have another culminating event tomorrow where members of the cabinet will be serving as chaperones to our top readers in the district and going on a field trip. Where are we going, Bubs? To Bowling Alley? New Rock City. So that should be a lot of fun. So at this time, we will have Mr. Gonzalez come and present the second Nightlight Award.
Good evening, Board President, Mr. Zamore, Superintendent, Dr. Hamilton, members of the school board, and the Mount Vernon community. I guess this will serve as bookends, the reading challenge, and all of our younger folks up here. Congratulations to all of you that have read so many books. You should all select Mount Vernon High School in your upcoming lottery. My great pleasure to present this evening's Mount Vernon City School District Nightlight Award to an organization that has, when I say gone above and beyond, I mean has really gone above and beyond. What you see before you, community, stacked, crammed into the back of the room, is a very small representation of the student athletes that this organization helps to support. There are a number, all of the athletes that are sitting, could you just please stand and make yourselves known also? Just for a second. Appreciate that. You guys can sit back down that have seats. Over the years, going back more than 10 years, this organization has given of their time, their talents, their financial resources to the student athletes of Mount Vernon High School in tremendous ways. Last week, I had the distinct honor of presiding over our senior convocation where we announce all of the scholarship recipients from Mount Vernon High School. And not only was I able to mention this organization for donating their time and securing funds and helping our students find scholarships, apply for them, make sure that their college applications are in order. But bigger than that and beyond that is creating a connection with a student. And that is exactly what Destination College does. They have developed relationships with our students and our student athletes from a broad range of athletics programs that is really something else to see. And so it is with great pleasure that I honor Destination College. I believe Ms. McCann and Ms. McKenna will come up to receive the award. Just in closing, I'd like to say that this is, I'm touched, I'm moved by the number of student athletes that have shown up. I think it's a testament to the work that Destination College continues to do. Special thanks to the football players who just left practice, so we apologize for the smell of the... They're working hard. They're working very hard. Several members of our basketball team, I see our soccer coach. What they do, I can't tell you, really, I can't say enough. I can't tell you what it means to me to walk the halls at 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night and see them not only sitting in very small groups, some of them have full-time jobs, and they come and they end up spending 2 to 3 hours tutoring our students in whatever regents they need, whether it's the SAT to get those scores up, to make sure that they qualify. And not only are they doing that, but they're also supplying snacks to make sure that the students are fed, and I couldn't do what I do without the support of community-based organizations, but you know, there are those that help, and then there are those that do what Destination College does. So once again, to Ms. McCann and Ms. McKenna, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, the entire organization and everything that you all do. And special thank you to all of our student athletes and coaches that showed up this evening to support. Thank you, Dr. Hamilton, Mrs. Zamore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez, for that. Thank you. It does take all of these people, all of the community support and the various organizations in order to make things happen for our children. So I extend my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to you for all that you do. Moving on under the superintendent's report, first I would like to take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to our 3 outgoing trustees. I'd like to thank you for your gratitude and your support on this amazing journey. Particularly over the last 3 years, it has been immeasurable. I hope that you will continue to be district allies, that you will continue to be champions for the 2020 vision that you have helped give birth to, and most importantly, a friend. So I'd like to make this presentation to you, and this is presented to Trustee Charmaine Farron. And a handy dandy certificate. To Mrs. Darcy Miller.
In my office. Put it this way. None of my diplomas are up on the wall.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Omar McDowell. So moving on, I have another matter I'd just like to put on the board's radar. I'm not asking for action on this evening, actually, but something that I just want you to be aware of as it relates to school choice and some changes that are happening at the federal level. You have a 5-slide copy of a 5-slide PowerPoint in front of you, and I will just go through the 4 main points of that and then share with you my ultimate recommendations as it relates to school choice. As you know, school choice was put in place by the New York State Department of Education as a mandate under No Child Left Behind to increase schools being identified as low performing. And school choice was defined as a public school choice critical component of No Child Left Behind because it offered students enrolled in Title I schools that were identified as focus or priority schools an opportunity to attend a public school that has not been labeled as such. The current state mandate says that it is up to the local educational agency to determine if they want to continue providing parents and districts with the option of school choice. So there are pros and cons to school choice, and I will walk you through from our perspective what those pros and cons are. Firstly, it provides all students in low-performing Title I schools, including students with disabilities and limited English proficiency, the opportunity to obtain high-quality education. And secondly, it gives schools a greater incentive to undertake reform efforts and make the changes necessary in order to improve student learning and reach academic goals. The other side of the coin is that school choice financially devastates many public schools, and ours included. Currently, there are 189 students enrolled in schools outside of their zoned schooled areas under the auspice of school choice, and we are required to provide transportation, and that is almost in excess of $400,000 per year. Additionally, there's been a decline in student enrollment and focus in priority schools, resulting in, 1, overcrowding of classrooms in our schools that are identified as in good standing, and decrease in the effectiveness of instruction based on student-teacher ratios. And lastly, our school choice students have been transferred from Edward Williams, which is a priority school, Rebecca Turner, Focus, Graham, which is Focus, Benjamin Turner, and Holmes, Parker, and Lincoln School, and Traphagen are all schools in good standing, so they get the most requests, of course, for students to attend there. So at the next board meeting, I will be asking for your approval to implement the following recommendation, and it would be my recommendation that we eliminate school choice. However, that we grandfather in students who are currently attending schools by school choice so that they can finish that school experience with the peers and those friends and teachers that they've developed a relationship with, under the provision that parents provide the transportation, Absent that commitment to the parent to do so in order to be grandfathered in, that those youngsters return to their home school. So at the next meeting, I would like to actually, hopefully by our next meeting, be able to ask our policy chair to work on a policy that would outline this recommendation and then ask the board to act on it. Yes.
It just might be worth clarifying for the benefit of the public that we're not talking about people placed in specific buildings for IEP purposes and other purposes.
That is correct, no. These are parents who have requested transfers from schools that are identified as priority of focus to a school that is in good standing. And again, one of the challenges that we have as a result of that is that it overpopulates many of our schools that are represented as good standing. And keep in mind that the state is doing away with those designations anyway.
And the
at least for a
criteria
year.
change every year, too.
Exactly,
Which doesn't
and the
help.
criteria changes, exactly. But this has nothing to do with students who have IEPs or who may have 504 accommodation plans. That's not related to that at all.
Understanding the impact that it has on the school district, as well as the fact that the state is changing the name or the direction as far as school choice, I still think that it's important that we give our students an opportunity to participate in other buildings that may be succeeding beyond the current situation at their current schools. I guess none of us are no strangers to school choice, understanding that we have school members here, not to pick you out, but you're one school board member that have children in another school setting. That's school choice. Understanding that I know we have board members here that went to districts outside of their current school. I know Charmaine went to Spelman. Yes, Cardinal Spelman. That's another, you were homeschool. Those are all forms of school choice. And the reason why you went there and the reason why you chose there because you feel that those are better opportunities for your children. And you have those opportunities and you can afford those opportunities to give to your children. I think that we have to be very careful in closing off opportunities that benefit students that don't have the financial wherewith in order to make those choices and leave them stuck within educational systems that may not be providing them the best opportunity. While we can't do it for every student in the system, I think by closing that opportunity relishes a notion that they're stuck. So considering that we're moving to a K-8 format, I mean, my own personal opinions is that community schools is somewhat of a segregated system. Whether you agree with me or whether you disagree with me, it's somewhat of a segregated system because it leaves that child stuck within their community. And while it may seem bad or good, when you look at certain communities, why would we want to leave our children stuck in that particular environment if they can do better somewhere else? So I believe that school choice is a viable opportunity for some students and that it should be considered very heavily as you make that choice. I won't be here to make that choice or that decision, but I think it's something that should be carefully considered in closing off opportunities to students who cannot afford to do what some of you have done, what many of our teachers in our own district do, and don't send their children to our school system or any school system that seems to be failing. So don't close off those opportunities to our children, because if we do have schools that are outperforming schools within our own district, I think children should have an opportunity at some level, even those that are going outside the district, and it's costing us transportation. I think it's money well spent, understanding that those children need an opportunity just like you have.
Sorry, can I ask one more question, Superintendent? What is there changes at NYSED? Like, what is the impetus for this?
Well, it's changed from the No Child Left Behind Act.
Yes, it's a federal change.
It's
Can
a
you
federal
just help put
change,
this in
exactly.
context about what's changing with the No Child Left Behind?
There are several changes, one of which is how schools are funded through grant programs like Title I, Title II, for example. And actually in the confidential last week, I sent a side-by-side list of exactly what those changes are as it relates to No Child Left Behind and the new ESSA guideline. It looks specifically at issues of identifying underperforming schools. It looks at testing, changing testing, the amount of testing that students will be subjected to, the amount of time that students will be tested, and it gives districts greater flexibility in terms of how students are assessed in order to determine their level of proficiency. And it also talks about reporting mechanisms to parents as well.
I just want to say a word about that, about this. How does this impact I know there was an anti-discrimination statute that also had some type of sort of like impact.
impetus,
An
yes.
impetus on
That
school-
was,
I
that
don't know if it's
was.
school choice or not.
That was actually not school choice, but open enrollment. And Dr. BC can speak more to that since that predates me.
Well, yes, we still do have an open enrollment, because that's a court order, that's a court mandate.
Right.
So unless we go back to court and change that, we still have to continue that enrollment.
So, yeah, so how does that work? So how does, what's the significant difference between the school choice and the open enrollment?
Well, school choice is something that was a mandate given to us by New York State.
Okay.
And they are the ones who said, no, you don't have to do that. But public school choice is within our own school district.
Okay.
Not outside to other Catholic schools, it's within our own schools.
Okay.
It's like you transfer from Williams to
Penning.
Lincoln.
Right.
So it's within, it's not outside.
Okay.
People who choose to send their kids to Catholic school or that, they can do that if they want, that's their own prerogative. But it's within our own school district. And it only takes the kids from, not from their houses, from the school that they were at in Williams to where they are going in Lincoln. And as Dr. Hampton just expressed, you see the amount of money that we spent
Sure.
doing all this.
His question is about the open enrollment policy, the impetus for how we got to the open enrollment policy, and that the court case that directed that action to the board.
Okay, because years ago, it was that you have the south side against the north side. You had the white kids on one side and the black kids on one side. So in order, the white kids from the north side couldn't go to the south side. It was the black kids from the south side that can go to the north side and register. So that's how that comes in. It becomes a court mandate, and we have to follow that. But I was told that we can change that, but we have to go to court to change that, because we don't have the amount of white kids in your community, because most of our kids, just look like alike, that can change that, so. that's how that
So it was designed to better integrate our schools,
Yes.
and that is no longer an issue since our community is not as racially diverse as it was at that time.
So,
Segregated, yes, thank you. Is not as segregated as it was at that time. So it's practically no longer practical,
it's
but we just
practical,
haven't.
Dr. Hamilton, in a sense, I don't mean to be challenging.
But this isn't under, we're not suggesting that we change that. It was just in response to President Zamora's question.
It's not a racial thing anymore. Now it's an economical thing that we have to consider. It's an economical divide in our community, and when you look at it from a community school's perspective, let's take Williams demographic versus Tri-Pagan or Hamilton demographic. When you look at the demographic from an economic standpoint, we know racially now, this is a racially diverse community. Look at the board now, right? It's racial. So it's not about racial, it's about economic disadvantages that we have to consider in understanding that there's many children in our school district, in our community, that don't have an opportunity. And we say that it's because parents lack involvement, parents don't understand the system. But this shows that we have 189 parents that are paying attention and want better education for their children, and that's why they take the opportunity and take every advantage that's available to them to say, listen, I understand that this school is failing. I want to put my child in the most successful environment they can be in that's available to me. And if we close off as many possible within their own community, I think we do them a disservice, we do our children a disservice, and all I ask is that you consider that and you take that into consideration as you make these choices and decisions, because from an economical standpoint, there is still that great divide, understanding the differences that you have from one type of community to another.
So trustee, what is your definition of a successful environment?
What do you mean by, I'm talking about standards. So if you're in a failing school, vice versa, a school that's succeeding, that's a successful environment. If my school is not, one particular school is not failing, it's thriving, it's not a focused school, that school is succeeding per se, according to state standards, vice
Sure.
versa, a school that's marked out as focused.
So are you implying that teachers at one school may be better as a whole versus teachers in another school?
I'm not implying that. There's a number of variations why any one particular school is focused, vice versa, why one isn't. All I'm saying is that the opportunity.
Right, I'm trying to find out the opportunity to divide. So for example, if the teachers are apart from one building to another, relatively, okay, that is not why the school, let's say, for example, goes into focus. It's obviously individual achievement levels and certain
A number of different
subgroups.
reasons.
Okay, exactly. So basically, the opportunity would be there. You know, you have a building, you have the classroom tools. If all these things are equal, I'm not saying that they are, I'm not implying, but if the teachers are at par also in terms of their level of capacity, then it would, we could reasonably say that that child has the same opportunity as the child in another school. So the building doesn't make the school, right? Teachers do, the tools, learning tools do, the available learning tools, and obviously the environment in terms of the physical condition of the school, those type of things impact student education. So if all those are equal, but the school happens to be in a priority or focus status because of individual achievement levels, then I don't think that that changes the level of opportunity available at the
So then
particular
why-
building.
Why do you send your children to a different opportunity?
Well, I have other personal reasons beyond what we're going to discuss here, but
I'm just asking you, that's
But-
from the same, from that same perspective. I'm not saying
Sure.
that it's a bad
I-
thing.
I understand.
I'm just saying that you see that there's a greater opportunity in this particular setting versus any other particular setting, regardless of whether it's Mount Vernon or whether it's you or anybody else. I'm
sure,
not trying to
sure.
point you out. or
No,
nothing.
no, not at all,
I'm
not at all.
just saying that giving parents an opportunity, right, to send their child to an environment that they feel that is succeeding and by state standards is succeeding, we should keep that door open, vice versa, closing it.
Yeah, well, the only thing I see that's different is, let's say, for example, that a child may be exposed to role models of other children that are succeeding. Okay, bar that, I see the conditions to be pretty much similar. The other thing is that regarding, I lost my train of thought here. Okay,
Well,
anyway.
I think that the fact of the matter is, I think it's all for naught, because as soon as we finish implementing this 2020 vision and convert all our buildings to pre-K to 8, all of our students and faculty will be stellar, and this will be a non-issue. Point well taken, but this is a journey.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, here's I just remembered my point. Have we tracked, or do we, I'm sure we have the capability, I'm not sure if we've done it, the students who have enrolled in school choice to see how they're performing versus how they've performed at their home schools? Dr. BC?
That's a good question.
Yes, we do. And some of the kids that we track they're not doing much better because they transfer from one school to the other. But we found out that they have other issues and we put intervention into place. Sometimes that's not the issue why they're doing poorly because of poor teaching. That's not what it is. But we get to find out that they're not doing better either when they go to another school that is doing better. So we put the intervention in place and we noticed that there's other things that was not.
And this is a very complex and complicated question. You can't isolate variable, because we have examples in our district. If you look at socioeconomics, for example, one of our schools that has perhaps the highest or lowest the highest number of students who are economically disadvantaged, the school is in good standing. It's not a school that is identified as priority focus. So socioeconomics is not in and of itself a variable. We have examples where that is a non-determinant in terms of how well students do.
Absolutely.
And conversely, there are children in schools where the number of students who qualify for free and reduced is significantly low, who still have academic issues. So it is much more complex than just race or socioeconomics and teachers. You can't extrapolate any of those three variables as the sole indicator of how well or poorly a child will perform. It is very, very complicated, and a lot of things have to be taken into consideration, particularly in a community like Mount Vernon, where sometimes language is an issue, acquisition of language is an issue, exposure to literature is an issue. There are several factors that go into how well children perform.
Absolutely. Just for the record, I don't want to be quoted as thinking that economically disadvantaged students are having trouble learning. That wasn't what I noted to or stated.
We understand, thank you.
Sorry,
All right.
can I?
Oh, sorry.
I just feel really dense. I'm still not understanding President Zamore's initial question, the answer to it. So can you explain to me, how is school choice different from open enrollment, and what is the relationship between the two?
Open enrollment is voluntary. It's voluntary.
Voluntary what?
It's voluntary enrollment based upon a parent just coming to the school district saying, I would like my child to go to X, Y, and Z.
Right, so I don't live near this school, but I want my kid to go to that
Open enrollment
school.
is that vice versa. School choice is state mandated, meaning the state has said that if the school is failing, that child has a right
Right.
to be removed from that school and enrolled in a succeeding school.
No, I understand, but
it's not failing.
even with open enrollment, right? let's say for argument's sake, we had one school in our district that was 100 times better than any other school, and every kid in the school wanted to go to one specific school. Obviously, there's not room for every kid in the district to go to one school, so what happens?
Challenge is they go on a wait list, and we have to give priority
Right.
to kids who are zoned in that area.
Right. So the priority happens naturally anyway, and the more community-based we try to make our schools, which is one of the purposes of the 2020 vision, the more that's going to be solidified,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
As the superintendent noted, correct, the goal is to make sure that all the schools, as much as we can, are on par in terms of, you know, the teacher performance, quality of the building structure, facilities, tools, learning tools, so that we don't necessarily need that shift. Now, I always know as a fact that a particular building doesn't make you know, a child better or worse. It's so many different factors. You know, it is parent engagement, it is, you know, peer engagement, it's all these different things, and personal aptitude as well, individual aptitudes. It's very complex, and but you know, definitely your statements here are well documented, and I believe that you certainly have a point, but we also have to look at so many other things in terms of how we operate the district and where the district is going. We're tasked at the amount of seats that we have, especially with the restructuring and doing the pre-K through 8, so we're going to have to be much more careful with these other types of programs.
Can I just say one more thing? I really appreciate this discussion, and I appreciate Trustee McDowell's comments, and it's a good reminder to all of us that, look, there's always a tension between parents and control of the school district. That's just a natural tension that's part of having a public school system, because anytime as a parent you enroll your kid in the school, you're giving up control to some extent, every day, right? You're giving up control of what happens to your child when you send them to public school. And that's part of the social bargain that we all make. We have public schools, and parents put their kids in public schools and expect good things. And they pay taxes to make that happen. But there are these, it's a balancing act. Every single thing we do is going to, you know, take away a little bit of control from parents or give a little control back to parents. And this is a delicate balance that's been going on for a lot longer than any of us have been alive, since the Supreme Court first said in 1926 that we could even have private schools at all, because they used to be illegal. Parents do have a role in their child's education, and that's always going to be a tension with what we do, and it's a very important balancing act. And it's true that every policy we have has an impact on that, and sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, and sometimes, you know, there's pros and cons. It's a tough thing that we need to look seriously at.
Absolutely. All right, thank
All right,
you.
I have like one or two more items, sir.
Sure.
There is a bill for your information. There is a bill that has been presented to the state legislature that we are hoping will be voted on tomorrow. And if this bill is passed, it will significantly increase the maximum cost allowance. Now, why is this important, or why is it even applicable to us? Well, by increasing the maximum cost allowance, it would allow us to exceed the amount of money, or the cap, if you will, that we're able to allocate to a particular building, and some of the costs that are generally associated outside of construction would be able to be included in that. Currently, the proposal that we have, let's say Grimes, for example. Grimes as a 3-story structure, which would include a parking deck, exceeds what we are able to, even if the board wanted to go to that structure, it exceeds the maximum cost allowance, which means the part of that cost that is above what we're able to do, we would have to find another way to fund that, either through the budget or raising taxes. Raising taxes really isn't an option because we have the 2% cap, which is a whole other issue for us. But once we have a decision on this at the state level, we can then have our conversation about what our priorities are associated with the construction and some of the plans that are under consideration. I know we talked about having this conversation at a retreat once we get all this information together, which we are in the process of preparing for now. But I wanted you to keep this information on your radar because it will have some significant impact on decisions that are made as it relates to construction on several buildings, plans that are pending, particularly Grimes, Pennington, Mandela, and I'm missing one, Parker. particularly as it relates to those 4 sites, this new legislation could have a huge impact on our direction. So I'd like you to keep that on your radar and stay tuned. And lastly, I've communicated with you during the course of the week about my recommendation that we revisit A.B. Davis. The 2 churches that we were planning to use after getting some estimated costs, I think it is probably not fiscally responsible to put that kind of money into facilities that we do not own, and rather invest that money in one of our own buildings. We've done a facilities review and found that A.B. Davis would be a very viable option for our youngsters at Mandela. In fact, it is a better option because they would have their own entrance to the building designated exclusively for them. All of the classrooms and administrative space would be able to be located on one level of the building, and the renovations that we would make in that building would certainly be renovations that could, 1, be absorbed in the bond, 2, would be appropriate for our construction as it relates to the STEAM building at A.B. Davis. So I'd actually like to ask the board for official action to move forward with this plan to allocate and relocate the Mandela program to the A.B. Davis facility effective immediately.
How do you wish to go about that?
I'd like a board action to authorize the superintendent and administration to relocate Mandela High School to A.B. Davis as a school within a school.
That's not on the resolution, so you want to just take a consensus?
Just as a practical matter, do you want to give Rick, maybe while we're in this executive session, you can write something up?
That would be great.
So we have something to...
Okay. All right, then we'll revisit that. Thank you very much. And
Is that a long-term resolution, or is that short-term just for this?
that would be, in my estimation, a short-term solution. I think we have to look more extensively at a long-term solution, particularly as we bring the 3 high schools online. This BOCES program has been so attractive to students at Mandela. It may ultimately become a real good option for us all together. But for now, this is what I'm proposing as a short-term solution.
Fantastic. As I know, I'm not sure, I know we talked a little bit by text, a little bit. I'm not sure everybody. My concern is stability for the children.
Absolutely,
So whether
yeah.
they're here or there, understanding that this is a short-term solution, meaning again, next year, they're going to move again possibly. And then again, we really have to make sure that we give our children stability, vice versa, bouncing them around from here to there as if, in a sense, no one cares. Like why are we the students that keep being bounced around? So I would like to see you guys put together a plan, a long-term plan for these students. Understand that the buildings are not going to change. We're going to have the same buildings that we have now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So really considering where and what is possible is an action plan.
Well, that's a point well taken, but do know that we've been at least I hope we've been very transparent about this transition, and some of our students are going to be redistricted more than once. As a result of this, we will certainly try to minimize the amount of turmoil associated with this, but transition and transformation is sometimes chaotic. And there will be several of our families that will be rezoned based on our efforts to convert our schools to pre-K through 8 buildings.
Go ahead.
I just have
Sorry,
a question. So will this relocation of the Mandela students delay the opening of the STEAM high school?
Not at all.
Okay.
Actually, it may accelerate it, frankly, because some of the work will get started on this summer as we make the renovations in that building.
That'll be applicable to the...
Exactly.
One of the things I want to note is that the entire Mandela program, I believe part of the vision behind the Mandela program is sort of like a borderless school, a school without walls, whereby the students can help craft their own destination, their own curriculum, partly through, whether it be through BOCES or a collaboration between Westchester Community College. So in a sense, the concept of, hey, they need a building, I think is kind of going away with the Mandela program. When I was over at NYU, we used to have a school called the Gallatin Division. And Gallatin was known as the school without borders, the school without walls. In that school, the kids there could craft their own path. They could take a class in the College of Arts and Science, a business school, film school. They could mix and match. They didn't have their own building. And so I believe that the vision for Mandela, and the kids are really receptive to it right now in terms of crafting their own future, is working out really well. So the notion of that they have to have a building, they have to have a home, I don't think is necessarily the way to think progressively about what Mandela means and what the program means to the children. Okay.
If I may, if you will just indulge me, I failed in acknowledging our outgoing trustees an opportunity if they wanted to speak, if that's all right with the rest of the board. I wanted to give that opportunity when I made my presentation and kind of skipped over it.
Charm, you're F.
Am I on? So I actually didn't want to have a word. I wanted to thank the board, the administration, and most importantly, the citizens of Mount Vernon for taking a chance on me to become a school board trustee. I have to say this has been, in my life, one of the great honors to be here and to do this work. And I think so many of us sit outside from this process and don't really realize how much goes into it and the level of impact each one of us has on a child's life. And so I encourage others, if you ever have the opportunity, while I absolutely hate politics, but if you look beyond that and see what you can contribute to a community like Mount Vernon, anywhere else really, as a school board trustee, take the time, take the energy, take the effort to become a part of this. It is a lot of work. You do think you know more than you actually do know. But there's so much that you don't understand and know. And coming in, my only motivation was to have an impact on the children in this community, for them to feel proud, to understand that people cared about their education, where they were going, and also as they walk through our community, to understand that they were valued as a child, as a student. And I want to continue to live in this community, so I wanted to have individuals around me and that grew into adults that are part of this community. I want to be able to turn to professionals in this community for all the things I need. And so whether it's from an educational perspective or a vocational perspective, that's where I want to see this school district go in helping to develop our children. So thank you. And with regards to the administration, I think you all do an amazing job. This has been a tremendous amount of work. We have literally been spending years turning around this district. I think we're on the right path. And every single person in every single building that touches a child intellectually and from a vocational perspective, you are literally changing history. So thank you, Superintendent. I wish you all the best. I want you to stay positive. I want you to recognize that each person is incredibly important and is capable and able to contribute to life as we know it every single day. And you have an amazing impact on kids that have never met you personally, but they see you and they're proud of the person that you are in representing them. And I hope you continue to have the support of this board and the community to accomplish all your dreams and hopes for this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow, Charmaine. Yes, this has been an amazing experience. It's been truly a privilege and an honor to serve the young people in our community. I can't say enough about the dedication on the part of Dr. Hamilton, his cabinet, the whole administration, the dedication, the amount of work that they've done, the way they keep their shoulder to the grindstone and just believe that this turnaround is happening. It's not that it can happen, it is happening, is so impressive to me. I think, you know, you've hired well, Dr. Hamilton, and you just have a phenomenal team, and I've enjoyed every minute working with every single person on the staff here. All I can say is I do hope, I echo what Charmaine says, that things can stay positive. I entered into a negative situation when I got on the board, and I left in a negative situation, but my feelings about my service are very happy ones, and I'm very, very proud of the work that the board has done and the administration has done. I will continue to support the students in the district by mentoring and expanding my mentoring program, and have been asked to help work on a couple of events that are going to be upcoming. But I have found this very, very joyful, and it's really given me a renewed sense of hope for this community and hope for public education. So thanks everyone very much for being supportive, and it's been a great ride. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Testing. There you go. I think you said this, Darcy. What an amazing ride it has been. And at this present moment, I'm filled with so many different emotions. It's crazy. I think Superintendent said the other day, the older he gets, the more emotional he gets. I don't know if I'm getting that older, but I'm definitely getting more emotional as the time goes along, sitting at this table and being able to work with such a tremendous team. You know, even through the arguments, I look at it as a family. You know, you argue, you disagree, but that's part of the process. You know, that's part of making change. That's part of seeing what we can sit here and say we see today. 3 years ago when we sat to these tables, I never would have believed that we can have got done the things that we got done today. I think Mount Vernon City School District is in a tremendous place today that most community members would have never thought that we could be in today. We have a tremendous administration in place that, for the most part, I truly believe in. I think we have the right people, another superintendent's quote, at the right time, in the right place, people that are qualified, people that care, and it's been a tremendous opportunity to work with each and every one of you. I think the students here are extremely lucky to have each and every one of you at these seats because they have people that care, people that are experienced, and people that want to see Mount Vernon change. So I'm glad to be a part of something that's transformative for our children, that's transformative for our community, and I'm not the type of person, because I lost, I get sour. I will continue to fight for our community, fight for our students, and whether we disagree or agree, I think we all want the same thing. I think we all want all of our children to leave this school district ready, capable, and prepared for everything that they're going to face as they graduate these school buildings. So I would simply ask that this board and this administration continue to work together, continue to build upon what has started, not that I started it all, we started it all, but for my tenure here, continue to build upon what we started. A board that can be respected, a board that respects its community, a board that respects itself, a district that puts its students first. And if we can continue to do that, I think Mount Vernon is well on its way to be a district that people want to come and be a part of from a human capital standpoint and from a student standpoint. So I'm glad to sit here. I'm leaving here extremely excited, yet sad, but I'll still be here fighting the cause and supporting the initiatives, because I believe at the end of the day, it's all about our students. It wasn't just a campaign slogan, but I think everything we should do should always be about children first. So I thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I thank this community for believing in me, as Charmaine has said as well, and I thank this administration and this board for all the hard work we did over the past couple of years.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
All right. Before we go on to the communication from the public, I also want to say a sincere thank you to Trustee Farron, Trustee Miller, and Trustee McDowell. And no, there are no losers. We're all champions for the children and for the community. So thank you again. Now we're going to start with communications from the public. And Mr. McCormick.
Good evening. The Board of Education recognizes the critical importance of community discourse and involvement in the education of Mount Vernon's children, and accordingly, members of the public are invited to speak at each regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting subject to the terms of the board policy. Speakers must register in advance by no later than 4 p.m. on the date of the meeting by contacting myself, the district clerk, in person here at 165 North Columbus Avenue, by phone at 914-665-5235, or via email at rmccormack@mtvernoncsd.org. The board welcomes all respectful comment, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, or other Mount Vernon education official or employee is strictly prohibited. Any such complaint must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak, with up to 1 additional minute to be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. If appropriate, board trustees and/or the superintendent or the staff member at the direction of the superintendent may immediately respond to a speaker's remarks. Our first speaker this evening is Nadia Mondesier.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, administration, citizens of Mount Vernon. Last year, I spoke around this time to kind of give a recap of my son's pre-K experience since he was part of the first full-day pre-K class. So I'm here again to talk about kindergarten. 2 years ago, I was on the brink as to whether I should enroll my son in Trapegan or send him to private school with his friends. So that was sort of when the light bulb went off for me, and I decided to find out about our schools. I met the superintendent, I met Joe McGrath. We spoke about the Smart Bond, and I met the principal, and I decided, let's try for 2 years, see how things go. So here we are at the second year, and I'm optimistic. My school is looking great. The parents, some of the parents are happy. I talk to parents all the time, and they're impressed at the changes that they've seen at our school. There are people who come to vote, and they're amazed at how Trapegan is looking. My son is doing well in class. His teachers are committed, they care, they're approachable, they're accessible. So I think for now, I made the right choice in sending him to his school. He's young, and I wanted to keep him close to home, so I feel safe in my choice in sending him to Trapegan. I am very optimistic with what I've seen, and I implore the new board members that are coming in and the current board members to stay the course and stay true to the vision that you promised us. Everyone is paying attention now, and everyone is looking to you to stick to your word, to stick to what you said you were going to do. There are parents who were indecisive, and you don't want to lose those. There are parents who want to come back, and for you to get them to come back, you sort of have to dazzle them, you have to woo them. So you have to, have courage and have strength and do what you said you were going to do. Stick to our expectations. There's a lot going on in our district right now, and I congratulate you on the bold action you took, the historic action you took in filing litigation against the city to preserve the progress that you want to make. So we're going to need trustees that are not the trustees of maybe 15 years ago who were content in just doing, whatever was expected. We're going to expect more. We're going to expect more from the trustees, more from the administration, and from you, the superintendent. It's a new day, and it's going to take new and bold action. And as a parent, I'll be looking closely to see how you do. I will be paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
One of the things you said that resonates with me is that we want to make sure that we keep parents in the district. We want to make sure that we attract new parents to the district, either the ones that are here already or those yet to be here. It's very important that we make this district competitive. We have amazing private schools all around us. We live in Westchester County, New York. We have amazing public schools all around us and communities all around us. So therefore, if we want to have parents make the choice in terms of choosing us here to educate their children, this district, then we have to be competitive. And we have to be competitive in educating the entire child, not just academics, but also student activities, clubs, sports, intramural activities, so many things to attract parents and to make them come here. And speaking of attracting parents, you got to treat parents right as well. You have to pay them attention. You have to answer their requests and their concerns. So thank you, Ms. Mondesir, for your comments. And I believe we will definitely make you and the rest of the community proud. Thank you.
Next. Joy Nemhard.
To the superintendent, trustees, members, and the public, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I actually have a good story that I wanted to share with everybody. Sometimes we need to do this every now and again. But before I do so, I would like to make it public that I am not being influenced by anyone. Nobody sent me here. Absolutely nobody has ever heard my story before. It is just by divine intervention. It was prior to the last meeting at Graham School that where I spoke. It was actually the Saturday before. I had a problem around my neighborhood with a tree, and I called your board president to help me to assess it, because it was a neighbor who was chopping away at a tree, and I wanted to know what to do. I felt it was not in order to do, so I wanted somebody to intervene. And so he came around and we sorted it out, and he said to me, Joy, why don't you jump into my van with me and come around Graham School? So I was not hesitant because I had never been there before, although I drove past. I've never actually been on the grounds. So we went there and to Graham School, and we were looking at the outskirts. The houses look very stately around both corners on Bedford and on 4th Avenue. But the streets were dirty. There were limbs in the ground thrown down, and so forth. And also on the ground itself, where they have the island with the Pachysandra, it was not thriving because the only nurturing that it had was the construction, the debris from the construction. So it wasn't doing well at all. So that also need to be taken care of. It wasn't thriving at all. And Pachysandra is very beautiful. It's in the winter and it stays nice. However, what happened, the good story is that your board president took two black garbage bags, and he brought me one. And I wondered, why did he give it to me? I was stunned. So before long, He was around the whole dimension of the field, picking up garbage. I was nervous about it because he had no gloves on and he could have picked up a needle. Then I had my bag and I said, now what should I do? And I started to pick up bottles. So there were cans, water bottles that the workers themselves ate and throw all over the field because there is no central garbage can in which they can put that. Now, when he came back, I gave him my bag and he put it in. I even had the opportunity to speak with some parents who were on 4th Street, and they asked me whether or not it was permissible for them to use the field. I didn't know the answer. So I asked afterwards, and I heard with yes. I saw some other people running around. Is it permissible for residents to use it?
We could ask that. We'll answer you after.
To use the field. Okay. Now, I say all this to say that I don't know someone else who would do such a chore. It was coincidental. There was no news. There was nobody looking on. And to see him do that and then draw me to it, in the process, my keys fell in the garbage. So when I was ready to leave, I had no keys. I didn't know where my key was. I had to take the garbage bin, throw it out, use a piece of stick, stir between, I found my keys. By that, he was gone because he had a date with his daughters. And so that was a commendable act. And in Mount Vernon, we do have a problem of maintenance. And it's all good when we put up a nice building or we make a good garden, nobody cleans. And in a year, it looks old, misshated, as if it was not done recently. So that's a part of what we need to do. And your president did set precedents. And so I wanted to share it all with you.
Thank you so much. Well, Ms. Nemhard, you know, I may have overstepped my boundaries there, picking up garbage on the school fields, because I think that may have violated board policy to do so. Just joking there. But yes, it is very important that when we do a renovation at a particular school or building, that we hold the improvements that we made, and that we don't let them go back into a state of blight. You know, a lot of the things that I do around the district, a lot of the actions that I take, I understand that it's above and beyond what typically is expected of a board trustee, but it's out of passion, it's because I care, and I believe I've reflected that in my actions, and the community is better for that. We have, for example, today I received pictures from the Little Hands Playground at Mount Vernon High School, which last year we were so proud. We showed pictures up here. The grass was so green. It was beautiful. But now all the lawn there is practically dead because we didn't make the proper investment in a sprinkler system to keep it going. So it's penny wise, pound foolish, and now we have to go do it again. So sometimes I know they're like, oh, Leslie and his change orders and things. It's just that I want to see things done properly, and I want to see things maintained so that we don't have to double back and go spend money again. During one of the meetings, the architect, actually, the landscape architect, when I mentioned, actually, the following meeting after we left Graham that weekend, I said to him, by the way, the Pachysandras and the plant beds, are they part of the sprinkler system? Does the sprinkler system reach there? And he said, no, those are natural grasses. They don't need water. You know, they'll do well. Everything needs water to get established. All right. So once they're established, I can understand that they may not need water. But we don't have anyone. We don't have the staff to properly water, to go out there, to remember. And you have some scorching hot days, and we're in for probably a very hot summer if the weather in the Midwest goes this way to the east. So what will happen then? Will we have to plant all new beds all around that field and spend money again when we could have just spent a little bit extra to provide extra sprinkler heads in those locations. So we have to be careful as we make these investments, that we make these investments wisely to preserve the state of the renovation that we create at the time that we do ribbon cuttings and we present the projects. So those are the things that really concern me, because it's like a garden. Once you establish it and you don't maintain it, you come back a few months later and the weeds have taken over. And so we want to make sure that the weeds do not take over our district again. Thank you.
Ms. Kerwin?
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent,
Good evening.
Administration, and the community. I just want to thank the superintendent personally. We meet, when I say me, PTA council meet with the superintendent monthly to address parents' issues in the school and in the district. And I have to say, Superintendent, that you have done a great job. You work diligently to address the concerns that we bring forward to you with the parents. So I want to thank you personally for meeting with us. And I encourage you actually to continue to meet with us as the school transform. There are going to be other issues that we're going to be coming forward. So I encourage you to keep meeting with us on behalf of the parents.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Moreover, I'd like to thank everyone who supported our dinner dance back in April. It was a very successful dinner dance. As a result, we were able to award 18 seniors within the district $1,000 as college. Thank you. And also what we have done and extended the scholarship to the middle schools, where we took 2 students, one from the general public and one from the special ed community, to award them $50. So I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your support for Dinner Dance, especially Mr. Silver, who went an extra mile to help us. So again, I want to thank all of you, and our seniors are all happy to be getting this reward of $1,000. So thank you again.
Thank you. Ms. Karan, that was my first dinner dance in the district, and I have to admit I had lots of fun, and it was very well done. It was a great presentation. Ms. Nemhart, there was one more thing I didn't answer, whether or not the community can use the fields. Just remembered. The community is allowed to use the fields and go on our fields. The thing that we do have is that we have restricted use for organized teams and organized organizations, okay? And there is a fee schedule, there is a calendar schedule that they have to provide insurances and all these other steps and things that they have to do. But specifically at Graham, we'd like to close the fields after hours at night. So we don't invite loitering on the property and permit bad things to happen in that neighborhood. So the neighbors do have that concern. Now we are working it out through facilities to see if we have the staff, if we could afford the staff that can open it up on the weekends during the daylight hours and lock it back up for the evenings. That would be Saturday and Sunday, and maybe have some roaming supervision of all of our fields throughout the district. So, for example, maybe it's a 2-man security crew that can just check up on all the fields, because we've had issues where people come on our fields and do barbecues and parties and leave tons of litter and stuff, and teams that come from the Bronx or wherever to play soccer. I know they did that a lot at Davis School. So we just want to monitor that more so that it's more for community use, for family use, and then the organized uses will go through the facilities process. So hopefully that answered your question. Ms. Nemhart.
A question about
Sure.
the facility use. Is there a policy for that? Should we make a policy?
We do.
We adopted one about 2 months ago.
About 2 months ago, we did
Is
it.
it one for a certain time? Do they use the facilities?
No, it's a generic, I mean, that would be way too specific, because there might be a different appropriate time for each building and in each parking
So people can
area.
use the facility until midnight? I mean, they can come in and just, I mean, how does-
Organization will come in and they will tell us what the event is, tell us how many people they're expecting.
No, I
tell us the
understand, I
timeframe.
understand that because we started we started making a fee.
Yeah.
My
We've always
concern-
had that structure.
My concern is, other people parking in our facilities, say for instance, over by Trap Haven.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know, is there a gate where we can close? Because over the weekend, people start fixing cars and.
Sure.
Cars and, is
Sure.
there a policy for that?
Not specifically. Again, like Trustee McCohen said, it's up to the district to, make, let's say, more specific policy amendments to that in terms of, I guess it wouldn't be a policy, it'd just be some type of regulation, whether or not people could park, let's say, at particular properties and facilities. At the high school, we don't really have that issue. At Traphagen specifically, we do have that issue. We used to cordon it off, and I believe the decision in facilities was made whereby if the community, if they don't trash it, if they leave promptly at a certain hour when the teachers are coming in, if we don't have any issues, we'll let them use it. Because I know that area is densely populated, there's a lot of cars, and I remember there was one mother with a baby one day that saw me on one of the properties and said, "Thank you so much for letting us use the," and we will let them use it, they just use it, the parking lot, because it would take her hours to find a parking space. So if the facilities department notices that there's an abuse, I believe they may shut it down and put, let's say, chains back up. But until such moment, I think it's, again, these are taxpayers, these are residents. If we could make their lives a little bit easier, I think we should. So I hope that answers your question.
We probably need to make a policy on it.
Oh, I'm trying to find it. We did just adopt, I think in March, a policy specifically on, non-school use by the public of fields and everything, people walking their dogs, people coming to play on the playground, and some of it was to address liability, to clarify that if you do that, we're not covered.
Grimes, the old Grimes School and that playground, I think kids go in there and play basketball after dark.
Yeah, some of those facilities, we may need to secure them. We may not have a way to secure them or police them. So there may, besides a sign that says no playing ball, whatever, or entering after a certain time. But who will?
I take the liability off us. Yeah, after dark, dusk to dawn.
Yeah,
I don't think it takes away any of the liability, but I think, I think you put something out there that says the use until, and I think after dark is a good marker. And then also an additional, in maybe a little smaller print, we're not liable for any damage to your property or a disclaimer, you getting injured on our property, stuff like that. I just think you need some basic disclaimers out there for the public
If you lock it
to
after
notice.
dark, I definitely think it takes liability away, because if you jump the tall fence.
I agree.
Yeah.
They kind of go in between, they're small enough to go in between.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that we could do in this district that we need to do. I mean, someone during the Graham ribbon cutting, they told me that people let their dogs loose during the day, on the weekends when kids are playing. So we need a no dog sign. That's another sign. So obviously,
I found the policy.
Okay.
Do you want me to just read it? It's not very long.
Sure.
It's part of the longer policy where we talked about fees and everything for actual scheduled use. Okay. Public use of playgrounds, etc. The district recognizes that exterior playground, this is policy number 1500. The district recognizes that exterior playgrounds, racing tracks, walking tracks, public fields, sidewalks, and other exterior areas of school grounds may be unfenced and unsecured, and such areas may be used from time to time by residents of Mount Vernon for personal recreation, subject to the following limitations. Any such use shall be at the discretion of school officials, including security personnel, and upon request, any such individual shall immediately disperse and leave school grounds. Any such use shall be entirely at the sole risk and liability of such individuals. The district reserves the right at any time, from time to time, for any reason, to prevent or prohibit any use of any school facility. Large crowds, vandalism, fires, cooking, camping, soliciting, attempts at exclusion of others, and destruction of school grounds are prohibited, and those people can be expelled and are subject to legal liability. And then a disclaimer that in no event by letting somebody use our property can they ever claim ownership of it, but that's the gist of it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Calvin Walters.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Greetings. I just had a few questions. Well, one question is about the lawsuit that you have against the city of Mount Vernon. How do we gain more information on it, and how do we follow the case? Is that available online, or where do I go? Who do I speak to? Is it transparent, or is it secretive? I don't know. Also, I have a younger cousin who's in the 9th grade, so most I will, he's going to be in the 10th grade this school year. I wonder how, how you redistricting the district, how's that going to affect him? Let's say, for instance, if he failed a couple of classes, so his stay in the high school is prolonged. So how does that work with him and other students? And I guess when is the cutoff line to, like, the students are, I guess, really fully transitioned into going to the new high schools? And my last question is, well, actually, second to last question is, if students transfer, can they transfer, like, I guess when everything is fully implemented, can they transfer from another school? So, for instance, say they want to go to STEAM school, but then they change their mind. Because in my humble opinion, it just reminds me of college when people are just choosing a major. But I remember in college, even though they're, like, adults, they still couldn't really decide. So how much, like, for children. So sometimes, oh, this looks nice. When they actually do, it's like, oh, this isn't for me. So how does that affect, I guess, when they want to graduate? And my last question is, at the last board meeting, you said that a couple of teachers or administrators, I don't know, please forgive me if I'm misspeaking, but a couple of people visited similar schools to Mount Vernon to see how what they're doing there, and you want to see how it affects here, if you get what I'm not misspeaking. I remember during the presentation that you were saying that some people, I guess they visited places in New Jersey, and they visited different schools that were similar to Mount Vernon. And they said, oh, we use this as an example and prototype. I just want to know the name of the schools. And also, I'm sorry, last question is, is this the last meeting for the school year, or will there be more meetings during the summer?
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good
Some great questions.
Yes.
And I'll let the superintendent take most of them. And thank you for being very attentive and to know even to ask those questions. Those were some great questions.
Okay, so our goal is to have our 3 high schools of choice operate up and operating in the 1920 school year.
All right.
And yes, students will be able to cross over. We know in high school, youngsters may have an interest or an aptitude that is not yet fully developed, and they may have experience in the performing arts school and decide they want to cross over to STEAM. They absolutely will have that opportunity. The core curriculum standards in terms of what every student needs in order to graduate will be offered in all schools, so they'll be fine either way. The redistricting will happen for the high schools when the schools open, but again, there will be an application process and an interview process, and we have a committee that's in place already working on that for the STEAM school. In fact, they've already met and started developing that criteria now. Dr. Gorman can tell you specifically which schools were visited that we wanted to get a sampling of. The board does meet over the summer. The schedule usually isn't as active as it is during the school year, but there are meetings that are scheduled during the course of the school year, and those meetings, they've actually already been uploaded, haven't they, on the website?
They were up for discussion.
Okay, so the schedule will be posted after discussion, and crossover.
Typically meet once a month over the summer, right? Just
Yes, generally over the summer it's once a month. I think July there's 2 though.
It'll be the reorganization meeting, and then the last Tuesday in July, and the last Tuesday in August.
Okay. The lawsuit, I'll let, actually our attorneys are here this evening, but the lawsuit is a transparent process. It is openly discussed at the board meeting. In fact, is there a tab on there tonight for?
Yes. No, we did it last week.
But there's actually going to be an update this evening, and we'll be getting advice from attorneys this evening on where we are with that. But it is a very transparent process. Anytime a document is filed on behalf of the school district, you can request that document if you're interested in learning more about it through the district clerk. And Dr. Gorman, which schools did we visit? I think yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've also visited some schools down in North Carolina that were nationally recognized as STEAM schools and STEAM academies as well. But Dr. Walden will give you.
So, good evening. So we went to visit a number of schools to look at their college and career readiness programs through the AVID program. That was Almora 12 in Elizabeth, New Jersey, I'm writing this down for the gentleman, as well as White Plains Middle School, right here in Westchester. They were chosen as part of an AVID showcase because they have similar demographics as Mount Vernon, and they are doing phenomenal things in terms of engagement, in terms of literacy, as well as really pushing the college and career readiness programs. Okay?
Regarding,
No, go ahead. I was going to make sure I got all this.
regarding the lawsuit, it is a public document when we file a petition, when the attorneys file a petition. Currently, we do not have the petition on our website, but it's something that I believe we will consult with our attorneys over and whether or not we can. And I believe I don't foresee any reason why we cannot, because you could, look up in the look up in your computer in White Plains and it comes up, put Mount Vernon petition. So I'm getting the nod from our attorney that yes, we can post it. It is a public document once they file it. So just to make it easier for our residents to follow, and the board clerk is acknowledging that that it's something that he would do, and thanks for asking that.
I think we got them all, didn't we?
Yeah.
Lawsuit.
No, his cousin.
From the school. Oh,
Somebody
yes.
else.
So a youngster that may be challenging, having some academic challenging, there's,
No, he's not having any academic challenges.
Oh, I misunderstood your question.
Because, for instance, by experience, I learned that sometimes things happen. And when those things happen, people aren't prepared for it. Because it happened to me personally, and when I was in high school, that situation happened with a teacher. He was removed. We didn't have a teacher for a couple of months. Teacher comes in. We still had to take the Regents, but we're still, responsible for it. And they
we
didn't know
try
what
to
do.
we try to keep our pulse on that. That does happen. People come in and people go out on maternity leave and things of that sort. So we try to keep our pulse on that. We do offer tutorial services. We do offer a program called Play-Doh for youngsters who may need to make up additional credits, for instance. And we do try to make sure our guidance counselors identify those youngsters very early on so that we are reducing the likelihood of youngsters dropping out or not having the kind of high school experience either academically or socially that they should be having. So we are actually adding staff on to help support that through school athletic programs, co-curricular programs as well, to make sure kids are integrated and assimilated in the high school and have a great experience.
Well, what I was saying, for instance, what if he's an A student and it wasn't his fault? It was really just the schools.
Understood.
What happens to him?
So the teacher wasn't in the class out
Yeah.
of maternity.
So he wasn't,
And
let's
then
just say,
probably has
not a
different
bad student.
stripes.
That he does everything perfectly, but it's the school's fault. So hypothetically, what happens?
In terms of making up that material or making up for material that he may have missed as a result of this teacher?
Yeah, things of that nature. I guess within this plan.
I'm not sure I'm following you, but I'll be glad to have an offline conversation with you.
Okay.
You're more than welcome, if you could just share my contact information with him. I'll look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Walters.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. All right. Next speaker.
John DiGiovanni. Did I say it right? My dad has a friend, John DiGiovanni.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm going to keep this short. So I'm sorry I never attended a school board meeting before. It's my first one, and it opens my eyes to a lot of things. I realize that everybody here has their own reason for becoming a member of the school board. It's hard work, it's long hours, and I wish to thank all of you for volunteering and becoming a school board member. It not only benefits the children, but it really benefits the whole city. And thank you all. School bond, you guys, some of you won't be involved anymore. It has to be watched, and I hope every single member, including new members of the board, watch the dollars and the money is being spent. The people here in Mount Vernon want and need the board to work together and spend our money wisely. I'd like to say, Dr. Hamilton and Mr. Zabor, that they appear to be turning the school around, and I believe that the Mount Vernon school system will become great again with you two. I haven't really met the doctor, but I have met Leslie less than a year ago. He has shown himself to be a tireless, hardworking executive. He's been working for all the people throughout the city, and I found out that even though he's a member of the planning board and deserves a $7,000 salary, which is nothing, he doesn't accept it. He works just for us. I hope he stays on as school board president and works with Dr. Hamilton and continue with the success that I believe the school board will have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Frances Wynn,
Yeah, I haven't seen her.
Brenda L. Crump.
I haven't seen her yet.
That's it.
That's it. All right, very well. Next on the agenda is my report. This is an opportunity always to have a little insight in terms of what I'm thinking about or some of the communications I've had with the public out, whether it's campaigning or just out, walking about. One of the citizens asked me, why don't we have teacher evaluations of administrators? And I thought about that. I said, well, I don't think we have a mechanism for that. But he said, just as the administrators evaluate the teachers, it would be it would be pretty highly effective if the teachers were able to evaluate the administrators as well. I mean, after all, they have probably more contact with the administrators than even board members do. And so I thought that was a good idea. And I will be speaking to the superintendent and the administration and other board members to see if we can do something like that. Maybe it's not legal to do something like that, but I think it should be anonymous so nobody could be called out. And maybe there's a way that we can facilitate that. The next one, another resident told me is, teachers in this district deal with a lot. Some of them are very frustrated at the end of the day. Some of them work with very high-need children and have very long days, and they try to balance working with the high-needs children and in the integrated classrooms, working with the students who are achieving students to give them what they need to stay achieving, and the high-needs students to make sure that they participate in the lessons and do well as well. But at the end of the day, they want to vent sometimes. The recommendation was, is there a social worker, maybe not social worker, but maybe psychiatrist, psychologist, a school psychologist of sorts, that teachers can go to and vent their frustrations and talk about the day rather than let it fester and then eventually result in diminishing instruction for our children, or effective instruction, I should say. I don't know if a lot of you or any of you watched the show on Showtime called Billions, but this guy, this big hedge fund guy, is always at odds with the district attorney, but the hedge fund guy has a psychiatrist that works for his firm to keep his traders edgy, progressive, sharp, and they go to them once in a while when they're losing their ways, almost like a motivational coach, just to speak their minds and kind of, get back on track. So it would be something to that effect. And I thought that was also a very good idea. The next one is one we spoke about here on the board regarding the attendance and grade evaluations for students and the minimum passing scores. And one resident didn't think it was a good example, setting a good example, that we stop the minimum score, the minimum grade that we give children, because, you know, no matter what they did, they would always get, I don't know, I forget what the minimum is, but what is the minimum? 60. They would get a 60. So if they didn't show up or showed up one day, they got a 60. And that was really not setting a good example, and that we should correct that. So I believe the comment I made when we last discussed it here at the board is that it's just like playing a sport. If you're beating one team, let's say in basketball, you have a superior team, and the opposing team only scored 10 points, and now you scored 100, 150, 200 points, when do you say stop, and when is it not totally humiliating for the other players? So I know there's a balance there. However, maybe that's something we should look into again. I know it's not a state mandate, it's more of a policy here within the district to see what are the benefits. I haven't studied this, but I will do some research myself and Google it and look at some research in terms of the effectiveness of minimum passing scores, or minimum scores, period. 60 would not be passing. Let's see. Public-private partnerships. I know there's a lot of rumblings and going on in the community of how, you know, one of the members of the trustees, the Board of Trustees, is going out there and making deals with people, making deals with other entities, and just want to let everyone know, if you ever have a question as to anything that I do, whether it's for the district or whether it's for the city, always start with a question versus an accusation. We could get so much further, because I'm always here and available at any time. As Ms. Nemhart said, even on a street tree issue for the city, I went to her house at 9 o'clock in the morning to see if I could help her out with that issue. So I'm always available. So let's start with the question and not the accusation. Number two, there are such things such as public-private partnerships. And yes, I have been speaking with people over, and we've been in communication, and I've looped in the superintendent and the business superintendent. I'm not sure who else I looped in terms of looking into a possible partnership with Montfort Academy in the use of the fields, if we do so, develop them over at Pennington School, and what other benefits can a partnership look like to benefit our community and our students and the school system. Those are discussions, things we're looking into, talking about. And whenever something more concrete, such as a presentation as to what that may look like, if we should achieve something like that, that would come to the board, and the board and the members and the administration, well, the administration would vet it first, and board members would see whether it's something that is indeed advantageous for our district to get into such partnership. I don't see anything wrong with that. So you know what? There it is. It's out in the open. And anything else that any member of the community thinks is such a big secret, that, oh, your board president's doing that, or a member of trustees doing that, oh, it's something that might be, perceived as dishonest. I know there's a negative article that was put out about me in the community recently. There was a quote that I downloaded from Michelle Obama, and I'm going to end with that. And I always have all these great quotes that I read up on. It's good stuff for the brain. One of the lessons that I grew up with was to always stay true to yourself and never let what somebody else says distract you from your goals. And so, when I hear about negative and false attacks, I really don't invest any energy in them, because I know who I am. And I rest with that. Thank you. Next, we're going to go on to committee reports, and how about we start on this side of the room? Trustee McDowell.
Committee reports.
It feels like the last day of school. Trustee McCohen.
So I missed the last meeting. I was out of the country. But before that, about 4 weeks ago on May 18th, we had a policy committee meeting with the superintendent, as well as our PTA president was there, and Deputy Commissioner Harris, Sean Harris from the Mount Vernon Police Department, and Officer Sergeant Carpenter? Sergeant? forget her title, Sergeant, I think, to talk about the anticipated return of student resource officers to the school district. We talked a little bit about the history of student resource officers. My understanding is we had them here until about 2010 or so. And it was really a great discussion, and especially interesting because Commissioner Harris himself used to be a school resource officer for many years, and he views it as a priority, a high priority personally. And we talked about what makes this a successful implementation, and I think the consensus we reached we talked for a little over an hour. I think the consensus we reached was it's really all about communication, communication between the SROs and the security force of the school, to have clear understanding of the roles, the different roles that security officers that are on the school district payroll have versus a student resource officer from the police department. Clear communication between the police department and the community at large and parents, so that you build an understanding of the purpose of student resource officers, because a lot of times when these programs fail, or when they're not implemented as well as they could be, is when there's not a clear understanding of the role. You have problems when people view a police officer in a school full-time or semi-full-time as, they're there to make arrests, or they're there to give parking tickets, or they're there to stop fights. And that's not the point of a student resource officer. The point of a student resource officer is to build community and to build peers and relationships with the students from a very early age with the police department, to see more of the positive and less of the negative. And they are police officers, and if there's an issue, they'll be there. But that's not the point. They're not there, and sometimes they get kind of misallocated and misused and viewed in a way that's not really helpful for anyone. So anyway, we talked a lot about that perception, and talked about a training program, which I believe superintendent is starting this summer, right?
Yep.
With where they're going to do presentations both with principals and
They've
staff.
already had the principal presentation last week at extended cabinet principals, vice principals, and supervisors. They already had that presentation.
And how did that go?
It went over extremely well, extremely well. So once we get this, once all the training is done and the SROs are certified, because they get a certificate or a certification that they've completed the training, we'll get a list of who they are, and we'll begin assigning them to schools.
Thank you. And we also talked about, as part of that, near the beginning of the school year, we're going to try and do kind of a PR push, again, to build from the very beginning. We want a clear understanding with parents and families and students of who these officers are and which schools they're assigned to, and the purpose of them being there. And it's not to scare kids, and it's not to be a bully, and the real reason why they're there, and what a value it is to have that kind of relationship with the police department long term. It's a really important asset for a school. And then we also talked about, from the policy perspective, having a memorandum of understanding for this program and for the larger interaction between the police department and the district. So we had walked in with several sample policies, and Cliff and us had already done some edits on some, and then we walk in, and then they had already written one. So from their own experience. So it was great to have their perspective too, and we're vetting that over the summer. But before they are here, we will have a written policy in place with them and everybody. I think we're doing a lot of really good ground, not personally, me personally, but the administration and the SROs themselves are doing, and the police department, who are really giving their full support to this, to have it start on the right foot and really get off to the races in the fall. So.
Dr. Hamilton, will they be full-time in each school, or?
There won't be enough to have one designated at every school full-time, but we will have some full-time in some buildings, and others will be shared.
That's very good work. I appreciate that. I did have a conversation with the mayor earlier this week. Maybe last week. The grand ribbon cutting was last week?
That was last week. I don't even know.
Yeah, today's Tuesday. Yeah, last week. Yeah. And we discussed, he wanted me to have a conversation with his officers and speaking about resources right? Yeah. And we discussed the Police Athletic League, and I wondered what happened to the Police Athletic League in Mount Vernon, because that's sort of like one of the goals of the Police Athletic League is to, you know, bridge the gap of communication between especially teens and the community and the police department in doing fun things and, you know, playing sports. So maybe it might be possible, I was just thinking that So anyway, I asked the mayor if we could get that started again, and everybody just, you know, like a lot of things in our district, in our community, we had at one point, it fell apart, and we all forgot about it. And I remembered only because I saw Yonkers Police Athletic League, the PAL, you know, symbol, the logo, come by. So maybe if they were maybe if we reinstituted the Police Athletic League, and maybe they wore T-shirts, the PAL T-shirts, which has that, you know, this great symbolism of PAL, and maybe the kids, and if they participated in sports or any type of other fun activities, maybe the Parent Engagement Fun Day or something, maybe that could also go towards bridging the gap of communications between teens and the officers. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to do that in the community. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And they are clearly, it's very clear that we have advocates in the police department who want a stronger relationship with the school district and with the students. And we should take advantage of that. And that's not true of every city, and it's not true of our city at all times. And there's a lot going on in the Mount Vernon Police Department, just like all police departments. But it's great to know and to see that there are people, they know that relationship makes it better for everybody, and that if they want to have a successful police department 3 and 5 and 10 years from now, that's how you get it.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Thank you. Trustee Miller.
I'm going to volunteer Trustee Williams, because he works with young people and is an athlete, to get involved with the Family and Community Engagement Committee and work on the Mind, Body, and Soul event that's going to be happening on September 16th. I've made a commitment to Dr. BC that I will continue to stay involved, but I think it would be great if Trustee Williams got involved. I think it would be a really, really great fit for him. I have no other reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And Trustee Saunders.
The special education had their last meeting in May, so we didn't have anything yet. But I am scheduled to meet with Ms. Gayon tomorrow to discuss next year's events. So nothing to report.
Okay. All right. Yes, Trustee Jaros.
Well, I also was out of the country when the Wellness Committee met, and Trustee, I had asked Trustee Saunders to chair that in my absence, and also there was the food pantry, which I also was not able to participate in. So, Trustee Saunders?
The Wellness Committee meeting was canceled. Most people were out of town, so that was canceled. And of course, the food pantry, we did over 300 people.
Oh, my goodness.
But actually, we're done for the year. I can't do it for the summer, so we'll start back in September.
Okay. All right, Trustee Phelan.
No committee report for the audit committee, but wanted to take this time to thank Mr. Silver for his assistance and continuous education in the past 3 years on the myriad of issues through the audit committee. Also, Mr. Zachariah for all the work that he's done in really moving an agenda, and we've made considerable strides over the last 3 years in really ensuring that there was structure and process around the audit committee functions. And while we had 3 trustees on the audit committee for the last 3 years, I think one of the important tasks that we had, or contributions that we had, was from our community members. We had Mr. Keller and Mr. Granston, and what that does is it gives us a different perspective. It also gave us history of Mount Vernon and what was done in the last 10 to 15 years that I think as administration, as new board trustees, we did not have on the audit committee. And so having individuals participate from the community is an extremely important part of the process. And it really allowed us to know what mistakes we were not going to repeat. So as the audit committee continues, and I do think we have some really qualified new board trustees that can step in there. Myself, and I would suspect the community members will provide some form of transition and continued contribution to that process. And we hope that all the gains we've made in the last 3 years, we will continue those and build upon them as we move forward.
Really appreciate that. Thank you, and we definitely will take you up on your transition help with that. I believe Trustee-elect Russo will be chairing that committee.
That's right.
And yes, we look forward to him there. Also, regarding community members participating, that's big.
It is.
Because we still have quite a brain trust, even though we've lost a lot of people in Mount Vernon. We still have quite a brain trust here, and to bring some community members that have, specific area expertise in some of these, on some of these committees is a good thing. Perspective, historical significance, and data. I know that on the in the bond meetings on Tuesday mornings at 7:30, we do have 2 community members that now pretty much attend almost every meeting. We have Lorna Kerwan, our PTA Council President, and also I know the Michelle Rayo, the Pennington PTA President, are now members of that roundtable, and they join as well. And I always invite any community members. People always wonder. The transparency is a word that floats around in Mount Vernon. I think we've probably been one of the most transparent boards in at least the past few decades here in Mount Vernon. So people are more than welcome to come in and sit on these committees and participate. And I know Ms. Mondesir sits in sometimes on the wellness committee meetings. So yes, your participation is more than welcomed. It's actually it really helps us a lot. And on that note, I believe we have Trustee White, and I'm going to go as well for the facilities subcommittee, and then we'll be wrapping up.
I don't have a report from the education meeting because there was no meeting, really. But I did want to say that I attended about 6 or 7 elementary school graduations this year. In the last week and a half, and I have to say, the kids made us proud. They got awards. They were dressed properly. They acted properly. Some of the audience didn't, but but it was just fantastic to see our children really achieving this year, and they made a great impact on the schools, and it was just a wonderful feeling to be there. And I know I went through kindergarten, 5th grade, 6th grades. I don't do high schools. But it was great. So I just want to wish everyone a happy summer. Those that are on vacation, the teachers, they really did a good job this year. So that's all.
Thank you for that. And regarding the facilities subcommittee, we've been meeting, and we've been trying to split hairs with the budget that we have to attend to many of the facilities and issues that we have. And I believe we're pretty close to, I know we've been revising our notes over and over again, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with the rest of the board at the next meeting the results of all of our note-taking and how we plan to divvy up the budget that we have for facilities this year, so we could share it all with you guys and get your input. See Mr. Silver writing, he was like, oh God, I gotta get that ready. I think that would be great. Because I know in in light of just getting it done in the past year, we've moved forward in committee, and we've gotten a lot done, but it left a lot of other board members wondering, okay, what exactly are you guys doing, and how are you spending the money? And so I think, all you guys see it through resolutions, right? You get the resolutions like, okay, here's how we want to spend the money. But I think it's going to be pretty advantageous to just get a general picture, an overall picture, before we start to spend, before you start to get the resolutions in terms of the direction that we're going. Last thing is that I really want to say, even to the incoming board trustees, that it is a privilege to sit here. But also, we're here not in title only as trustees, but we're here actually to do the people's work. So we've had a great group of trustees, outgoing and still here, that do great work, and it's, I think we each have to reflect upon the amount of work that we do for the district and whether or not we are truly contributing, or whether we're just bystanders and people in the audience as things are happening through the administrative process. So I call upon every member of this board to continue their good work on the subcommittee level and to actively engage the administration in the direction of the 2020 vision and the great things that we have for the community in this city we call Mount Vernon. On that note, we have any minutes to accept?
Yes,
We have 5:16. We're going to vote on the acceptance of the minutes of May 16th, 2017. I would make a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Saunders, all in favor? Aye. That's
Oh,
three.
sorry, abstain?
Sorry, hang on.
Wait, sorry. What are we,
May 16th.
May 16th.
On the agenda 2 hours ago. Let me just look at it.
Okay.
I'm going to have to abstain. I abstain. I wasn't here.
Abstain. Trustee McDowell, May 16th. You good? Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3,
That was the last board meeting.
4.
No,
No,
no.
This was election night.
This was election night.
Oh, I'm saying.
They're here.
You need to refresh it, maybe.
We had 5 people here. We couldn't have had a meeting, so who are they? I know Trustee Ning.
We do actually read these things before we vote on them. I just want people to know.
Yeah, so that was election night.
Yes, that was election
I
night.
was not here. I will be abstaining.
Do you have the records from election night?
I do.
Just to
I'm
jog
good.
some
I vote
people's-
yes.
That's a yes. I believe we have a quorum on, we have a majority on that. And so that, and we have the abstentions, Trustee Miller,
You're on.
Fearon, White was here. We're good. 2 abstentions and,
Three
no,
abstentions.
3. Oh, I thought you said.
I was traveling.
For board meeting night.
Okay, so I have to recount this. 1, 2.
We have 5.
We have 5. We have 5? Okay, great, fantastic. All right, so the motion passes. And then next is, we have anything else before executive session? We're good? All right, members of the public, thank you so much for your participation. We are going to go into executive session for about how long do you figure?
20 minutes.
For about 20 minutes. We're going to make a motion for that. And first, the board clerk will read into the purpose.
For the purposes of discussing receiving legal advice from legal counsel regarding the re-registration process, negotiation of a third-party contract with a district vendor.
Don't we have an HR thing too?
I'm getting something.
HR?
Oh, and the employment history of a particular person or person.
All right, so we intend to be back in 20 minutes to vote on the agenda, but all of you who would like to leave, there's nothing else of substance. Well, we didn't get into it yet. Nothing, not too much substance left in our meeting, so thank you for your attendance. I'd like to make a motion for executive session.
Motion.
Motion, Trustee White, second, Trustee Jaros, and all in favor, yes. Thank you. All right, everyone, thank you for waiting. We shall make a motion to return to the regular board meeting.
So moved.
Trustee Jaros.
Second.
Trustee McCohen, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now we're going to, should we do the consent agenda first, and then we'll do the individual items? Okay, great. We're going to, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Pull 13.
Oh, I'm sorry, opportunity to poll, yes. Thank you, trustee McDowell. 13-2.
Is that the alternative policy?
What's 13-2? Did these change?
No.
Numbers? No? Okay.
But now it's gone. It's now changed because I already.
Well, it's on my paper still. Can't change that. Abolish Mount Vernon Board of Education policy, alternative accelerated program placement. Okay, go ahead. Trustee McDowell, you have the floor.
I'm just pulling, I don't need to discuss it.
Oh, you don't need to discuss it?
Vote on it separately.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which one?
13-2. That
But in
is,
general, I'm
Oh, it's
pulling
not
it.
13-2 anymore.
No, it's now,
yeah.
It changes instantly.
I know what it was when I read it.
The
the
resolution.
resolution that was pulled by trustee McDowell was the abolishment of the alternative high school placement policy, number
And just
1392.
I don't really need to discuss it, but I'm pulling it because I just believe that I haven't had any discussion, we haven't had any viable discussion around the abolishing the program. And while I totally agree that the district is moving in the right trajectory and that we soon probably would not even need a program like this, I think just to abolish it today.
It's not, that's not what that resolution was for, trustee. It's not to abolish the program, it was to abolish the policy. The policy as it is written gives the principal sole discretion about who gets accepted. And I think that that has been part of the challenge that we have had with students being undercredited and not getting an opportunity. So I would like, as the superintendent, to have greater authority to place students there. So that's why I'm recommending abolishing the policy, not the
Why
program.
not, let's do like we do with every other policy, make an agreement to revisit that policy and work with it vice versa, just abolishing it.
We
Because
could come up with an alternative policy or create another alternative policy if that's the desire of the board. But as that policy is written, it would be my recommendation to abolish it and start over.
Okay, very well. Okay, so that's removed. Any other trustee would like to pull any other item from the consent agenda? Okay, so let me make a motion to approve the resolutions on the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee White, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. That passes. So, I'm sorry?
Call for the noes, just in case.
Oh, any noes, any noes, yes. Any noes? No, no noes. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Okay, great. All right, the next separate one is the curriculum and instruction authorization to renew an agreement with, no, is it? Which one's the
They're out
other
of
one's
order.
called?
Well, now they're out of order.
Now they're out of order? Okay, so why don't you figure out the next one?
All right. The first resolution off the consent agenda is the authorization to relocate the alternative high school program. And it reads, "Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, this Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent of schools and/or his designee to relocate the alternative high school program currently housed at the Dr. Hosna Zollicoffer Nelson Mandela School located at 251 Gramerton Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, to A.B. Davis Middle School, 350 Gramerton Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York. Be it further resolved that the superintendent and/or his designee is authorized to make the necessary adjustments, modifications, and budgetary appropriations that are necessary to facilitate the opening of the facility for September 2017.
Okay,
Could we say temporarily? It doesn't say temporarily.
Well,
temporarily relocate.
Relocate them temporarily.
I thought about that, but to Trustee McDowell's earlier point,
Who knows?
isn't that worse? I mean, it's going. Well, let's be honest. It's going to be for the 17-18 school year,
Yeah, okay.
right? For sure.
Yeah,
We're not. I assume we have no plans to change it in the middle of the school year. That would be even more disruptive.
right, okay. Got it.
And then possibly for the next year or two until that cohort finishes.
We don't know. We're gonna, I guess
So-
we'll take it year by year. Yeah. Okay, so,
And again, just remind us, how many students are there currently anticipated to be there that aren't taking advantage of the full day BOCES?
In the morning, we anticipate there will be about 40, in the afternoon, about 67.
Okay.
Yeah.
not many.
Yeah. Not. I mean.
Okay, so trustee Miller's recommendation for temporary, do we feel the need to include that? Policy committee?
I'll speak for myself. I'm okay with it, with no changes.
Okay, all right. So
always
fine.
change it later.
So motion to approve,
Motion.
second? I will second. Okay. Motion to,
We still on
Authorization to
Authorization.
The one we just read, yeah, the one we just read, yeah.
yes. Okay, so that's a second by trustee White, and all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, any nays? Abstentions? Motion passes. The next one, since I'm out of order, Rick.
And, the abolishment of Mount Vernon Board of Education Policy 7213, alternative accelerated program placement.
I'd like to ask a question too. Superintendent, I'm reading this. I don't see, where does it say that the principal has the authority there? I don't see that anywhere in here. It says the administration, the school administration,
That's the principal.
discretion of the school administration.
That's the principal.
The phrase school administration always means principal, doesn't mean the school administration generally.
Where it's designed to be school
School
administrator.
administrator.
Right.
You can usurp your authority, or she, whomever.
The way the policy is written, it's very specific.
The building administrator.
Okay, this gives us an opportunity to rewrite it. How about that? All right.
Do you want to just change the phrase school administrator to
I'd
superintendent?
like to have the policy committee revisit the whole policy, a new policy.
Okay, I'm fine with that personally, as long as abolishing this policy does not change the structure of the Mandela class going into September. If that makes sense.
Oh.
I don't have any plans
B-
to,
b- no,
but I
no.
would have the authority to.
Maybe I'm not being clear. This policy, I think, I don't have the history, it's an old policy, right? But is this the policy that originated, like what is now Mandela,
Yes.
right? Okay. And Mandela as a class, as a cohort, as a school, exists independent of this policy.
Yes.
It won't, there's not like it won't be automatically, the students won't be automatically sent back to other schools.
No.
I just want to be very clear
No.
that they don't have some unintended consequence by getting rid of this policy.
No.
That everything we've been talking about, both in the last few weeks and tonight,
No.
will continue the way we've been talking about. I just want to make sure that we're not changing anything, any more than we've already been changing things.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Something we feel we need a deep dive in order to restructure this policy?
Yes.
Okay. So, motion to, any other questions? I don't want to, okay, good. Motion to approve that said resolution.
Motion.
Trustee Miller, trustee Saunders is a second. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions? Noes?
I trust in the superintendent, so I got his back.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Rick, next one.
Authorization for staff to work overtime for the 2017 district-wide re-registration program.
Okay, motion to approve. Trustee Saunders, trustee Farron, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Abstentions? Motion passes. Next one.
Authorization to hire staff to work overtime for the 2017-2018 summer central registration.
Motion.
Second.
Motion trustee Saunders, second trustee Jaros, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Any abstentions? Nays? Motion carries.
Before you move on, Mr. Zamore, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate our new acting principal of A.B. Davis,
Yeah, that's
Mrs.
right.
Jen Weslowski.
Yeah.
And our new acting assistant principal, Nicholas Casares.
Since you mentioned them, again, and I just ask a clarifying question about about the Mandela class next September. Are those students going to be under the purview of the Davis principal?
No.
They will be independent.
It's a separate
Same principal.
School within a school.
Different beds
Yep,
code.
okay,
Same principal,
Same.
Burt's.
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
right. That's what I thought.
Very good. All right, Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Any unfinished business?
I can't help myself, yes, I have unfinished business.
Yes.
What is the status of the uniform implementation policy for next September?
It is going very well. Principals gave an update. All of our schools have theirs. Some schools actually have 95%.
Wow.
Excuse me. The vendors have been identified. Parents have the information. Everyone received a district-wide letter from me, and then a personal letter from their principals. And they have the purchasing programs already set up for how they can get them. So we're in good shape.
Is there going to be a handout or flyer or something at re-registration to remind parents?
Yes, and
Yeah,
it's
good.
also that flyer, that mailer that Mrs. Gaon mentioned. It was also on that flyer. So
Okay,
every
good.
home in the district got, knowing when they re-register that September we're implementing a mandatory school uniform policy for elementary students.
Now, I know earlier I've asked whether or not we had some type of questionnaire to send home to parents of children who were not wearing uniforms to see why they were not, whether it was a financial issue, whether it was just a quantity issue for rewashing, stuff like that. Did we ever do anything like that? Because I felt that the uniform participation dropped at some schools that I observed.
We did not do that yet. We actually are looking for an intern who will actually make that a graduate project to
Okay.
study the uniform implementation process.
Like a college intern.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's good.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Any new business?
I have new business. I'd like to have the reorg meeting on Saturday, July 1st at 12 midnight. Can I get a motion or a poll of any trustees available?
Before we have a motion, what's the alternative, right, Rick? I mean, do we only have an alternative, right?
Yes, actually.
No one going to be available. We have to have a board meeting
Yeah, because
within the first 10 days.
Within the
of
first 10
July.
days?
And we are looking at a skeleton crew here in the district and no trustees available.
Right.
Couldn't we do it, couldn't we do it on the 10th? Isn't that the Tuesday after the 4th?
I believe the superintendent may not be here, but that doesn't really preclude us from not having it. But I believe...
I mean, I'm happy to do that. I would have to Skype in. I'm not going to be in town.
Yeah. I believe, Rick, we were also discussing, I forget when we were discussing this, but anyway, what are the ramifications if we did it after the first 10 days, if we did it on the 16th? I believe that's when the superintendent returns, the 15th, and the earliest would be the 16th.
Oh, because the soup is gone, that's why.
Soup is
Okay.
gone as
I
well.
see.
I mean, is the state going to sanction us and give a slap on the hand? I mean,
That's a legal question.
okay, so we,
I've never seen a meeting not held before July 10th before, so I'd have to investigate and see what the risk is.
I would, my suggestion is that let's not be the test district.
So,
but we can't do the 30th. It has to be, right, it can't be before July 1st.
right, so 1201, my problem with 1201 is that it doesn't support participation from the public.
Right.
You know, I think they'd find it absurd. and don't care about the reasons why. So I think we should take a consensus in terms of the calendar of board members, in terms of who will be here, and if we have a quorum on any of those days, whether or not the superintendent is available, I think we should move forward.
Does the superintendent have to be at the reorg meeting?
I don't.
I would like to be.
You would like to be?
Yes.
Okay. When are you gone exactly?
7 through 19.
Okay, so basically, anywhere between the first is a Saturday?
First is a Saturday.
So first and second, so really the third, fourth, fifth,
So,
and sixth.
just to put this in perspective, the
fourth.
challenge that has arisen,
I'm sorry.
July 4th, right?
that's,
Oh, the fourth is in the middle of the week?
Yes,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's
the
what's
4th is a
presenting the
Tuesday.
problems, because people are either taking a long weekend, Saturday through Wednesday-ish, or they're taking off the 4th of July through the,
So the Wednesday. How about the Wednesday? That's the 5th. Wednesday the 5th, you're still here. Who's not here Wednesday the 5th? 1, 2,
I'm happy to Skype. I'll
Guess
Skype
who's
in.
not here?
3. Out of three out of 9. And any of where are the trustee elects?
We have two of them.
Okay, two of them. Will you guys both be here on the 5th?
I think so, yeah.
Yes? Okay. So we just would have to get a consensus from
Again,
trustee-elect
I can Skype in, I won't be here. but-
Williams.
She's not here.
Where's Serene?
Serene's out of the country.
I don't know.
Okay, so,
No, he's out of the country now. I don't know what his schedule is on.
yeah, okay, so we'll check with Dr. Ning's schedule as well, but if we have a quorum,
Can it be the 6th or the 7th? Oh, because you're gone.
he's leaving the 7th.
What about the 6th?
We could do the 6th too,
better
but I
than the
think, I
5th?
don't think it changes the calendar of people.
It's better for me, but I don't know.
Oh, the 6th is better for you?
Then the 5th.
You're back?
I should be back on the 6th.
Okay, so the
not here.
6th. Okay, so
you're gone.
2 trustees gone for sure. Okay, so the 6th.
I'm not here.
Okay.
Can you Skype in, though? We can do the real meeting with
Yeah,
Skype,
of
yes?
course. Well, she's not going to be available by Skype.
You're not by Skype. Are you available by Skype?
No.
Okay.
I think you
Are you
should
just
do
gone
it.
the whole week?
I'll be going almost 2 weeks.
Okay. So, I would move that the 6th looks good in terms of the most available trustees thus far. Trustee Ning and trustee-elect Williams, we have to get word from.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I feel that we should move forward with that, and superintendent will be
And
here.
honestly, it's almost like, sorry to interrupt, but for the new trustees, we should prioritize that they're here. They have to be sworn in, like.
Yes, yes, yes,
They
absolutely.
have to be here.
Absolutely.
So we should make sure they can come.
Okay. All right, super. So
We don't have a consensus yet.
We don't have a consensus yet.
Have
We're
a
gonna.
consensus
No.
yet, so I put a motion on the floor, and I just wanted to know if everybody,
But is that motionable,
kind of like,
or is that just consensible?
I just asked the question.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Everybody's gonna-
yes, Mr. Russo.
I don't think the 6th or 5th works, because I think Israel is out, and I'm in meetings most of that week at night.
Okay, so the 5th no longer works for you, the 5th and 6th.
January,
Okay.
I mean, July 1st.
Okay, so you know what?
12 o'clock.
But what's wrong with July 1st?
12:01, I'm
I
sorry.
put that out there.
Yeah.
Can we do July
Right.
1st?
Well, we're taking a consensus right now, I believe, trustee, is what we're doing. So the consensus
Are you
is,
available July 1st?
Yes, I am.
Are you available July 1st, Rosemary? Yeah. I'm available July 1st, Superintendent. Are you available July 1st?
I have availability, but I would not like to do a 12:01 meeting.
Mike, are you available?
I'm available by Skype, whether it's at midnight or the middle of the day. It doesn't
Trustee
matter.
Alex, are you available by Skype? Are you available to come in to be sworn in?
Level 1, yes.
Yes. Ms. Torres? Yes, I'm available. I think we have a consensus.
Well, we have trustee Williams and trustee Ning. So what I'm going to recommend is that we get a calendar on all of them and make sure that
Spoke to trustee Ning, and he's
I know he's
av-
available.
he's available.
I don't know about
He's
Israel.
available as well.
Is trustee Williams available?
Yes, he is.
Yes, we think so.
Okay. At 12. All right, for 12:01. Okay, so I think that in that case, then we can take now that we have most of the people available, we can take, do we have any alternatives? I don't think we have an alternative now.
It sounds like that is
sounds like that
the
is
best
it.
option.
Right? So the public's not going to like it, but I think,
We can publicize it quite heavily. It's already on the calendar, and we can make it an event. The mayor of New York City gets sworn in at midnight, so we'll do it here.
Nominate at the
Okay.
board.
I think that's
We
what
should
it
not
is.
make this a tradition, though. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, no.
Don't with that.
It's very tough, but okay, so if everyone could do it that night, I think then that's it.
Like I said, I'll be on Skype, but yeah, I can Skype.
Okay, all right, great. So there's,
Who brings the bubbly?
so there's a
I'll be in
consensus.
Boston.
I don't think we need to vote on it.
Do we need to vote on it, Rick?
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to send a...
We have
Put out the
consensus.
meeting notice
Okay.
tomorrow morning.
Just
All right.
somebody confirm with Israel, for sure.
I'll reach out.
Yes. Okay, that said, any other new business?
I have a question about Mandela, I'm sorry. I don't want to. Is there an issue with the Mandela kids getting certification on the electrical HVC if they have to have if it's a 3-year program and some of the children are going 2 years or 1 year to the BOCES program? So they will not be able to get certification. Are there guidance counselors speaking with them regarding what options they have and how long they have to stay in whatever program?
Because they age out, right?
Yeah, because if they age out and the
Yeah.
program's for 3 years, will they be able to?
But all the
How-
kids already have been scheduled for BOCES, and they have met with the counselor from Mandela and the counselor from BOCES. So they have discussed what their options are going to be.
Okay.
And they're
So they
doing-
shouldn't be taking any longer programs if they're not going to be in school that long, correct? Okay.
Or at least if...
Do they
there
have the
are-
option to continue or not? On their own, maybe dollar?
The option on their own.
They have the option on their own. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, so,
I would like to make a motion that we let one of our departing trustees make the motion to adjourn.
go for it.
Charm.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you all for participating. Good night.